Hey everyone, we have a fun one today. We have Michael Hirsch here. Hi, Michael.
Hi, John. How are you?
Thanks so much for being on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and it's funny. In our last episode, we talked about Spotify, which also happens to be my favorite product. And this time around, we're talking about a product that I haven't heard of. So I think that's just as fun. I can't wait to talk more about it. Before we get there, though, can we hear a little bit about you, Michael?
Yeah. Again, my name's Michael Hirsch. Professionally, I started in product management in tech companies about 20 years ago. I've worked in a variety of industries for some bigger companies and some medium size. Spent some time at Sony, some time at Qualcomm, T-Mobile, and I have a variety of background, both B2B as well as B2C. About a year and a half ago, I decided that I've done enough of product management and product leadership in big corporate jobs and went out on my own to become a product coach and a product consultant. And so for the last year and a half, that's what I've been doing is helping product managers and product leaders just be better at product management and product leadership, help accelerate their career, help get them promotions, help get them to be successful and build and grow successful teams and successful products. So I've been doing that under my consulting company called Break a Pencil Consulting. So that's me. Personally, I live in the Seattle area in the Pacific Northwest. A wife and two daughters. One's a senior in high school, one's a junior in college. And I love hiking. I love board games. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's great. Yeah, really, really fun to learn about you. Thank you. And why don't we jump right in? Could you tell everyone your favorite product, please?
Yeah, it's a little bit of maybe a little esoteric one, but it's a product called Things, and it's a to-do list basically. It's an app that is all things to-do list, and they have a version for Mac OS, for iPad OS, for iOS for iPhones, and then also for Watch OS. So they basically cover all of the Apple devices
Huh.
with this to-do list kind of application called Things.
That's great. I do have an Apple phone, and I literally use the Notes app that comes with it that, is hardly has any features. I guess you can share and collaborate.
Yeah, they just did
Um,
their most recent release did actually some updates to Notes, but even their Reminders app, which is essentially kind of what their to do
yeah.
is yeah. So Things is I discovered it in 2008. So I've been using it for 16 years, effectively every day.
No
Um,
kidding.
yeah, it is my lifeline. It's my life preserver. So as a busy person, as a product manager, busy as a father,
Yep.
husband, life, busy. To me, like things floating in my head just don't work. I forget about them or I spend too much time trying to remember them, and it just really doesn't work for me. So as soon as I think of something or hear of something or am told to do something, I've got to write it down. And that was kind of what attracted me, I think, at first to Things was, okay, it's a to-do list. And so it's pretty standard, right? Check things off, add things to it. But they've got really quick ways you can add things to it, like hotkeys or, quick little widgets now on iPad or iPhone where you can immediately add something from wherever you are and whatever you're doing on your computer. And they've also got a cool way of contextually adding information. So if you're looking at a website or you're looking at a file or you're reading an email and you want to remind yourself to deal with it, look at it later, respond to it. If you do a hotkey combination, it'll add a to do with a link to that email, file, website for later. So I can come back a week later, a month later, I can make a reminder to say, hey, email you back. And I can click, it'll pull up the old email when it reminds me, and I can deal with it. So it's just incredibly powerful and simple how they do it. And so, yeah, I've been hooked ever since. And then, of course, it syncs between all the devices. So I don't have to worry about adding something on my phone. And then when I come out, and start work, it's there for where I need it. They've got all sorts of ways you can categorize things. You can create projects which will have multiple steps in them.
Yeah.
You can create areas. So for me, I have a kind of a work to-do list. I have a personal to-do list. Um, Frankly, it's where I capture anybody who recommends like books or movies or TV shows. I have a watch list and a reading list. That's kind of where I keep all of those. And kind of any hobbies as well. I kind of just so you kind of keep all those segregated out. They've got other things. I'm not. I'm. I guess maybe I'm slightly a power user, but you can use tags as well. They've got a pretty robust API where you can actually hook it in to other apps and other services that you might use that would then trigger creating. I don't do that. I've messed around with it a little bit, but I don't actually do that regularly. Um, but that's just some of the stuff that they've done, and it's crazy. It's this small little company named Cultured Code. I think it's 12 people in southern Germany. And I have it written down here. They're in, where are they? Uh, oh, here. No, I don't have it written down. Somewhere in southern Germany. And they've been doing this for years and years and years.
Wow.
And they, put out updates periodically. They're always updating with Apple's cadence. So, Apple just released their newest versions of all their OSs just a little while ago. And, same day they had a new release. And so just very, very, they're on top of it.
That's I'm listening to you. I'm so drawn by what you're talking about, but I'm also very tempted to like take out my phone and keep it low out of the view and download this thing because
Yeah.
you might
Yeah.
be dramatically changing my life right now. I
Yeah.
don't say that a lot on the show, but
Whenever I would switch jobs, back when I was in the corporate world and I would
yeah,
start a new job and, I'd get the new computer, and I've been a Mac user for, I don't know, 20, 25 years now, maybe. And so I was always, getting Mac. It was the first thing I downloaded, right? It was the first thing I installed, right? Because everything else, the standard stuff's there. First thing I install, connect it to my Things Cloud account, and boom, all my to-dos come back. And it's so like, it's, it's, it's my
it's like your
safety.
operating system.
It is. It's
Yeah.
a key part of my operating system. No question about it.
Huh.
No
Yeah,
question.
mine's Dropbox. I know what you're talking about though. Every time I get a new PC, yeah, from a new employer, whatever it might be, there's that checklist in my head. So I'm going to ask a selfish question. I am a PC user. Hopefully, I don't lose a lot of subscribers here, um, but I do have the iOS for my phone. Could someone use it just from their phone or from their tablet?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if
Yeah,
you don't really need it to sync to your computer, since they don't do anything on the Windows ecosystem,
yeah.
absolutely powerful. All the features I was talking about are all there and available on the iPhone version, on the iPad version. So that even in and of itself, for any Windows users out there, it's worth checking out, in my opinion, if you use an iPhone. Um, but it's one of those things that I can't help but think like a product guy because that's kind of what I am, right?
Yep.
And I admire the company's focus and their commitment to doing what they do extremely well and not feature creeping into other places, right?
Yeah.
They haven't bled into other types of apps. They've never done anything on Windows, and you got to imagine that, there's an opportunity there for them for sure, right? I mean, they absolutely could, but it's not in their wheelhouse. It's not their expertise, maybe. Sure, they could hire somebody and port it over, I imagine, but they don't. They stay very, very focused, and I admire that because it's very difficult to do when you're a product manager in a larger company and they have aspirations of, taking over the world.
I think you may have just answered the question I was going to ask, but I'll ask it anyway, and maybe you can, I don't know, maybe you can add to it or not, but as you were describing tags and different categories of to-dos, there was a part of me that was thinking, gosh, is that more than what I need out of a to-do list?
Yeah.
But you just mentioned, right? They're able to focus. Do you feel like they strike that balance of giving you enough to use and make it worthwhile, but not overwhelming the user? Because as a product guy, as you mentioned, um, and I'm the same, I struggle with that in a product, right? Because I've got users that have been using the product for decades and I want to make them happy and add more stuff. But then you got a new user coming in who's just an avalanche of features and buttons and ideas. Now there are ways to manage that, but do you feel like Things is doing a good job with that?
Yeah, I really do actually. To-do lists are, like you were saying, right? They're kind of like an operating system component of life, right?
Yeah,
Sort of everybody, whether you're just using, index cards or whatever, or post-it notes, and so you have to have your own kind of workflow at least figured out. So there's a little bit of that, right? If you just show up to this and you're like, I don't know, it can be overwhelming. They've done a great job in almost in like hiding all of the things within a really, really elegant user interface. So they've done a really good job not making it look bloated. But when you start to look under the hood, it's very powerful. And so it's great in terms of if you've got, you just want to keep it simple and just start adding your items to do and whatnot, you can. And then you start getting a little bit more, you want more out of it. Oh, I've got a project to do. I want to break that down into 3 or 4 or 5 to-dos. Okay, you can figure out how to do that. And so you can kind of ease your way into some of these more
right.
advanced features. They don't just sort of put them all in front of you. Over time, I've uh, modified kind of how I work with it and have expanded and kind of gotten a little bit more advanced. But I think it's a great blend of easy to get into and learn and very, very advanced functionality if you want it.
That's a great, yeah, I love that, right? So you've kind of grown into it at your own pace and added
Yeah.
as you've seen fit. All right, this one's typically the tougher question to ask. Anything with things that you'd want to improve, even though it's your favorite product?
Yeah, right. So there's and I just said, I admire that they don't get distracted by things and they stay very focused. Look, uh, right now, I wish they did have a Windows version, right? Because I'd be able to say, hey, go and get it. You're going to love it.
Yeah,
But I can't tell you that. So, I think maybe a Windows version, but probably not. Um, you know what I expect they'll come around with. They're never the first to do something because they always want to make sure they do it right, it seems like, from my perspective. But something they don't have right now, and I've seen in other products. I mean, of course, every product today is adding AI,
yeah,
but I've seen it in interesting places and things like to-do lists. There's something out there called Goblin Tools, and it's kind of like a to-do list. It's a variety of things, but if you put in uh, write a research paper or, hire somebody, some sort of big chunky to do, it'll decompose it for you using AI into smaller steps. Now,
no kidding.
and then you can adjust and tune those.
Yeah.
Things doesn't do that yet,
Oh, I see.
right?
Okay.
So I'd be interested in seeing how they can bring some elements of AI into it to help me decompose to-dos a little more easily, to maybe help kind of prompt tagging or scheduling, right? So, today, if I add a to do and then I can schedule it for when I want it in the future. But, for example, if I got an email for a doctor's appointment a month from now, let's say, it'd be great if I could just hotkey it and it would automatically see that and it would recognize what it was and it would schedule it based on the date and some intelligence in there. So there's a few things I think they could do with some AI that might make it better, and I expect we'll see some of that at some point.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, I've worked at well, actually, I hope it's okay. I share this. We were talking before we went on air about how we both teach at the higher
Yeah,
ed level. And
yeah.
there is software that the university uses or requires me to use in my classroom that is only available through a PC. And it's
Really.
sort of the bane of my existence because half the students have Macs, have to go onto a virtual machine to get to it. And it's just this whole kind of
I didn't think
unnecessary
there were
process.
many commonly used tools out there or things out there that hadn't spanned both yet.
Yeah.
But I guess there's still a few holdouts. So yeah.
Yeah. Still a couple holdouts, but not too many, luckily. So very cool. And last question we had for you. How has this kind of changed your thinking around product management? How has things changed your thinking?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of in two ways, right? One way is it's made my life livable, right? So as a product manager, um, we're constantly being peppered by everybody and anybody and emails and questions. And, one of the things I tell the clients that I coach is, one of the most important characteristics or attributes of a great product manager is, being able to really keep all of your stakeholders feeling as if they are very in tune with what's going on and that they are the most important stakeholder you have, right? Kind of, making them feel incredibly supported. And so that means responding to their emails and
Mhm.
having conversations with them. And so inevitably, you get pulled into a lot of meetings, you get asked a lot of questions, and so the items on my to-do list just would blow up. And so I can be in a meeting with somebody and they'd say, yeah, it'd be kind of cool if we thought about, or hey, do you know if we could do this? And so just a quick to do, look into doing this, right? Because I wouldn't forget it then. And then I come back to them and I respond, oh yeah, I forgot I asked you that. And they see that I'm responsive and I'm paying attention, and these are all good things as a product manager. So it saved my life as a product manager. I can't tell you how many times. And then the other thing is, it's given me perspective, as I mentioned before, about focus and really disciplined product management. Because, like I
Yeah.
said, even a company of 12, I imagine they have vigorous debates about whether they should add this or add that or do this or do, and they're always, they err on the side of no. They err on the side of taking very sort of deliberate, cautious steps forward, which I think that a lot of other companies certainly could learn from.
Right now in Southern Germany, there's a team having a very tough argument around features, but then they're
Right?
going to learn that there's a YouTube show out there talking about how their
Yeah,
things is someone's favorite product, and that's going to make their day and
yeah.
make them feel a whole lot better.
It's funny. I remember there was one time. I'm sorry, just one thing I just
Yeah,
remembered
yeah,
years
please.
ago. Uh, like it completely locked me out and crashed or something. I'm trying to remember what it was, and what it turns out. So whenever you indicate something's done,
Hmm.
it doesn't disappear forever. It goes into what they call a logbook. So you can always search back in there and things like that. And apparently, this is back in like 2011 or 2012. I apparently I had filled that logbook up. I had hit some like memory capacity that the whole like software stopped working. And so I was panicked, right? Because I'm like, where are all my to-dos and everything, my whole life's. And I got, I emailed customer support, and basically I was emailing back and forth with, I'm sure one of those 12 people in Southern Germany. And the gal was great. She's like, do me a favor, like zip your logbook database. And she kind of walked me through how to do that. Email it to me, I'll rebuild it and I'll send it back to you. And so, she did. A couple hours later, sent it back, reloaded, installed, and everything worked perfectly. So
Huh.
you get that kind of personal support when you're dealing
Yeah,
with someone. So
yeah, that's helpful too, right? And well, great stuff. Michael, I can see why you do what you do, because I could listen to you for another hour here, talk about product and your favorite
thank you.
products. But unfortunately, I have to go download things now, and
Yeah, that's right.
that's on the top of my to-do list, ironically. But thank you so much for being on. It was great to get to know you, and yeah, really appreciate you sharing today.
Thanks for having me.